whole team and now these haters salty.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the East Coast Red and Gold podcast. I'm Niners Jess, along with Ty Alston, Maddie B, and your girl Bex is inactive tonight. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Inactive,
I like how you use the football references.
Yeah,
Have to.
totally.
Yeah, it's Wednesday. It's hump day. And we have a really cool guest with us today, and I'm going to bring him on. Ted Talks Ball. What's up, Ted?
Not too much, Jess. Ty, Maddie B, how's everybody doing today?
Good.
What's up,
Good.
guys?
Doing good.
I don't know. You must
All
not know me too well if you said really cool. I don't think anybody would say that. Hey, I love it. I'll take any kudos I can get. But,
Ted, you're a good one. You're a good one. All right. So, in sticking with the thumbnail, BA and the Niners, I feel like this just, talk is going to continue until it gets done, obviously. But the latest is he took to TikTok, I believe.
Yeah.
And said, they don't want me back. And now everybody is taking it and running with it. And talking about it, as are we. So Ted, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts on the whole thing? And go ahead.
yeah, I mean, when the off season began, I said 24 to 26 million. I thought was the right number for Brandon Ayuk, and then I revised that upward more recently after some big signings. Obviously, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown. Justin Jefferson. There were quite a few big signings, and so I kind of revised that number up to maybe 26 to 28, and that sort of sounds like where they are. It sounds like the Niners offered 26. He wants more like 28, maybe 30, like Amon-Ra St. Brown got. Maybe that's a name I just forgot to mention right there. But there's a big distinction between at least three of those guys and Brandon Ayuk. So Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, and then I would throw CeeDee Lamb into that category. They're all bona fide, 100% proven wide receiver ones. And Brandon Ayuk, I believe, can be a wide receiver one. I don't believe he's been given the opportunity here to be a wide receiver one. But I also don't believe you can pay him as one until he's absolutely unequivocally proven it, and maybe for more than 1 year too. Maybe for a couple years as a wide receiver one before you can pay him that $30 to $35 million money. So for me, I still think I'd love to get him at 26. I don't think that'll happen, but I think maybe 27 could be doable, or maybe 28 at the most. I don't think the Niners will go higher than that, though. I think if push comes to shove, the bottom line is he's signed for this season, and the Niners could tag him 2 more times after that. And I know they don't want to do that. I know Brendan doesn't want that. It's not something the 49ers the only time we did it was we tagged Robbie Gould, right? I think that was the only tag we've had since Kyle's been here. But it is a card in the deck that could be played, an arrow in the quiver, whatever you want to call it. So, if Brandon gets too dug in on his number, there's that, or obviously we could trade him.
And the fifth-year option.
Yeah, I mean, let him play the fifth-year option, then you could. Well, you need to trade him before that, or by the trade deadline, probably before the season starts would be the smartest thing. But the bottom line is, I think Brandon Ayuk wants to be a 49er. I think the 49ers want to sign him, and I do think the deal will get done late. Late in the preseason, or like right around week 1, like it usually does with Bosa and Debo. And I think Fred signed his a little bit sooner, but most of the big guys
in July.
Yeah, most of the big guys come pretty late, and I don't see why Brandon Ayuk would be. Plus, it'd give Ricky Pearsall more reps in camp. That's a good thing. Jacob Cowing more reps in camp, and who knows if they really knock our socks off? Maybe that makes us more willing to move off Brandon Ayuk at that point.
Now, but do we have a chance at the Super Bowl without Brandon Ayuk this season?
Well, it depends on what you get for him. If we're getting a right tackle, or a great stud center, then yeah, we absolutely do, because we got to protect Brock Purdy better. more than we need more weapons, to me. So maybe Pooney and Feliciano will do a good job at guard, and maybe having Logan Thomas, as our other tight end, if he can do some good blocking, could help cover up McKivitz to have a better guard and tight end on either side of him could help. But, I think tackle's a bigger need than wide receiver, than having Brendan Ayuk as our wide receiver.
I think they're very high on Colton McKivitz, though.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and how's that worked for us in the last 2 Super Bowls, right? And
well, yeah, that's
to
true.
The others. So I think Kyle, I just really wish he would prioritize O-line the way his buddy Sean McVay does down in the Rams, or whether it's Les Snead, their GM, or McVay, the coach for the Rams. But I feel like they've really revamped their O-line this offseason. And, obviously you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they did a lot of drafting for O-line. I'm not going to say I'm jealous of their team overall, but I'm jealous of what they did on their O-line, for sure. I feel like outside of Trent Williams, there's a lot of question marks on the 49ers O-line.
That's interesting.
Even Aaron Banks?
Aaron Banks is decent, but he's also, coming up on a contract year here. So
he's in it.
Yeah, he's in it.
This year?
Yeah, this is it. So a lot of question marks. Our center Jake Brendel is he's a decent pass blocker, but not a good run blocker.
Middle of the road. Yeah.
Feliciano has stated this is his last rodeo. Burford hasn't lived up, and McKivitz, he can't handle speed rushers. So, and maybe more. But that's the big nag on him. And he was great for what he was, $2 million. He was great for that. But now we're paying him $7 million. And I don't know. I just would like to get more out of the right tackle position.
Ty, what do you think?
About BA?
Yeah, and then move into the the offensive line. We'll go that route.
BA could have gone online and said, I killed a bug. And people would have ran with it.
Oh, he could have said he killed a ladybug.
He killed a ladybug. He could have said, I choked on water. And people would have ran with it. We're in the 40 days of hell right now, where there's nothing going on and people just want something to say. So they're going to make up whatever. So it doesn't matter what he said. He said they don't want us. It's just one generic statement. And people just ran with it. How do we know he didn't go to the Waffle House and they kicked him out? Said they don't want him. Like, you just don't know. So I'm not feeding into all that garbage. I don't think anyone else should either.
Well, he did say they don't want me back.
Who's they?
How did they say that? Did they say that? Did John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan get on a group call and said, we don't want you back? Did they sing it in unison? We don't know, right?
Probably not.
All they did was release this BS like it's TMZ or the National Enquirer on TikTok, right? This is all that's been, there's no context to this. This was all pushed by IU, right? And then all of the other stuff that has happened has been completely just flipped out with the narrative, because they know they could put out whatever they wanted to, exactly what Ty just said, right? Oh no, I choked on Cookie Crisp, right? And that, that could be the 49ers fault because they're not letting him in because they're not getting him the contract he wants. So he's not in the facility getting the right nutrition. You know what I mean? People take whatever they want and do anything with. I'm not sure if we've all seen society today in 2024, but you can put out whatever you want out there and people are going to see it in a million different ways, right? That's just how they do it. And I don't know why it's like that, but that's where we are. So that's what they do. And then because, again, as Ty said, we are in the 40 days of hell. What they do is they take the multiversal approach to all of these potential headlines, and they just branch them out everywhere. It could be anything, right? Yeah, he was talking to Jaden Daniels. Look, here are the things I look at from that entire situation, right, at the end of the day, the VA situation, straight up. One, he was talking to a dude that he played in college with. Two, the franchise for which the dude that he played in college with has a pretty substantial amount invested into him and will have him under a rookie quarterback scale for the next 5 years. Probably 4, because they'll probably do a contract extension if he's any good after 3, right? So we've already seen what other teams do in those situations, right? We saw it in Miami. What did they do? They went out and they got Tyreek Hill to help with their young quarterback who was under the scale, right? You saw the things the 49ers have been able to do because they had a young quarterback who was under the scale. And they had 2 young quarterbacks under the scale, actually, fun fact. So this kind of reminds me of that scenario where I'm looking at the dots and it's like, where's he going to go if he does go somewhere? And it's like, look at Washington. There's nothing on their offensive line that makes you say, well, if you trade him over, boy, that fixes that, right? There's nothing on. The other thing I look at too is corner. I'm sorry, until we can play man-to-man when it counts, we're going to keep getting pantsed in the clutch. That's just what happens. That's why our defense has not been able to take it to the next level. Now, I don't know if that's because of a lack of a pass rush. I don't know if that's because the run game was complete, like the defensive run stopping last year was completely ridiculous or what. But it just seems like when the chips are down, they're going to play a zone of some type. And you're not going to win like that. You're just not. It's just not going to happen in the situations that you need to be in. So to me, like, I look around the league and it's like, what corners might be available at the deadline? I don't think anybody's available right now. I think that's the thing. No. That's the other thing. Like, there's nothing they're trading right now that isn't going to do anything. The only thing that I could see them doing is making a trade if somebody blows their absolute socks off. Let's say Washington does make a deal. Okay, you know what? They've got some cap space. They've got about $33 million in cap space, right? Let's say they trade a second, a third, and a fourth, and they trade Jahan Dotson along back with him, right? Because his contract's going to expire at the end of this year, and you're going to end up saving about, I don't know, somewhere in the vicinity of about $10 to $11 million on your cap hit this year. That's probably the best you're going to get because Washington's going to have to trade picks and they're going to have to create a deal with them, right? You look around the league, like, I don't see that happening right now. This is not the time of year where people are just like blowing it away and like, we got to roll the roster, we got to do some things. Maybe towards the deadline, but even then, I don't get it. I think he rides back this year. But the other thing that we need to really look at is how long can he hold out to until his contract doesn't toll, right? It was one of those deals, I think, with Le'Veon Bell, like if he could miss up to 10 weeks or something, and as long as he showed up for the last 6 weeks, everything was fine, and he just said, screw it, I'm staying out for the year. But, like, whatever that is, that's the thing I'm concerned about right now. How long does this last? When does this Cold War end? When does he stop leaking things onto social media, and then the 49ers have to come back with the, well, you know, we've all loved Brandon, and we really want to get something done, and we feel confident that will happen. And if you look at our track record, okay? We're in a time loop right now, okay? That's what it is. Ayuk puts something out, we talk about it, 49ers get asked about it next time they go on some sort of, like, little loop thing, whether it's Lentz or Shanny or whoever, and they talk about how much they want him, and then it all quiets down again until the circle happens again, you know? We can't see likes on X or whatever it's called anymore. So that's one less thing that we can manage. So 100%. This is just another thing for the cycle. I couldn't agree with Time more on this one, man. This is a 40 days of hell thing, and it's perfect for the 40 days of hell because guess what? There's a very good possibility it's going to last the entire 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
Well, rookies report July 16th. Vets report July 23rd. Do you think July 23rd is a deadline, Ted?
Nope. Not knowing the 49ers. I mean, they rarely sign big stars that early. Like we said, only Fred signed in July, whereas Bosa and Debo were more like end of August. So that's sort of my expectation until something. The only thing that makes me think it could be a little different is that Parag Marathe is not in California. He's in the United Kingdom. We're dealing with Leeds United now. And so this is really John Lynch's show, and maybe John Lynch will do things differently than Parag did. But that's my only hope of getting it done sooner. Or just the fear, if they have some fear of, what happened with Bosa and Debo, where they both had kind of off years after holding out for so long. And they learn from that and go, well, we don't want Brandon Ayuk to have an off year and what is arguably one of the last years of this, rookie scale situation for Brock Purdy. Now, I will say, even though Brock will get paid next year, the 49ers could probably do it in a way similar to how the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts, because I don't think his, cap hits get really punitive until, I want to say 2026 or even 2025.
Yeah,
so
that's when you do all those contracts.
Just because you sign him doesn't mean it's going to ruin the window. But this is the last year where we know we've got tons of money to play with for people to put around Brock Purdy without backloading a deal and putting money into void years where you're not even necessarily knowing if that player will be playing, but you're paying them massive amounts of money into vapor, basically.
Debo, by the way, signed his deal in 2022 on July 31st. I believe that was about a week or a few days after camp started, right in that vicinity. Bosa's, of course, lasted it was July 31st.
Ah,
yeah.
Which,
nice.
you know what,
2022.
that's amazing to me because, he, like with his play, like he had said like, oh, like the contract was a distraction, I didn't play, like how I could, blah, 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 whatever. But he signed July 31st. It's not like he signed up until like Nick Bosa did.
But he missed all those OTAs. He missed all that other stuff. And then he had oppositional defiance disorder too. Okay. Oh, they don't want me? F it. I'm going to eat this cupcake. You know what I mean?
That's
like
what it was.
Just that.
That's what it was.
Yeah, like straight up.
Well,
like, oh, okay. All right.
Okay, so we've seen Brandon Ayuk's
right.
his posts on Instagram, because there are people out there stalking his Instagram. Hello, this is where we live in. 40 Days of Hell.
Not just his fiance's.
I know her too. Whatever.
Yeah.
But if you look at his, at least you see him posting workouts, right? He's out catching balls. He's doing things. He's staying in shape. He's been on tracks. We've heard Ricky Pearsall say they worked out together when BA went to Arizona. At least he's working out. When we saw Debo, he was at the club. He was somewhere else. We never saw him working out. So he can sit there and say, oh, the contract thing mess with me all he want. But dude, you wasn't working out. That's what it was. And Matt, you just said he signed his contract on July 31st. To hear him speak, it was like he signed on September 1st. Fred Warner signed his contract on July 21st. When he did his extension,
I think George Kittle was around the same time too, right?
You didn't see Fred out there blaming his season on the contract and stuff. So it's a different mentality.
I don't remember that a little so much on Kittle either. You know what I mean? And that dude's working, and that dude is working his tail off. Like he parties hard and is going to work harder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and the injuries that dude plays with, like he's got. The one thing that this team really has is that hockey player mentality, right? Back in a former life, I used to, cover NHL games, and I remember being in a locker room after a Game 7. And the Bruins had lost. They lost to, I can't think it was Carolina. They lost to Carolina, and you talk to the team after the game, like, oh, what happened? And everybody's like, well, all of our injuries just kind of fell apart. And then you hear about all these injuries that guys are playing with, right? Like, abdominal hernias and like things that like, I'm not talking like, sprained, gout and sprained ankles and, you know what I mean? A tweaked deltoid or something, you know what I mean? Like hairline fractures of the leg and stuff like that. I'm like, what? You were playing with what? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna need surgery on that ankle. My neck's gonna need to be fused. Like, it was insane. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that would probably do it. But of course, nobody's gonna talk about that during the season. You know what I mean? So we have a team full of those guys. You know what I mean? Mooney Ward, George Kittle are those two guys. They did that last year. Like, they're playing with sports hernias. Playing with a sports hernia, playing with any hernia is like a bitch, okay? So now you're playing with this one, and it's just this, nope, I don't think so. Anytime one of these dudes plays with cracked ribs, I'm always blown away. Like, I don't know if anybody's ever cracked a rib, but no, you don't want to. Don't do it.
Sucks.
10-10, don't recommend. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way all of these guys are wired. But for them to be in that mode and to be able to get their body in peak physical shape, they really need to hit the window, right? From the beginning all the way to the end. Like, all those sled drills matter. All those snaps matter because you're getting out all the mistakes and all the bullshit all the time. Remember, the 49ers had never completed that friggin' pass ever until Joe Montana threw it to Dwight Clark. And like, they had tried that over and over again, and it just never did any damn thing. And they finally whipped that thing out in the Super Bowl, in the NFC title game. And oh, surprise, there it is. Even after the first receiver fell down because Freddie Solomon got slipped in the flat.
He was the one.
So, yeah. So this whole thing stinks. Like, this whole thing about Ayuk just drives me nuts because I know we're living in the same damn thing over and over again. So, yeah, maybe he gets signed in late July, or maybe he gets signed in late August. But if it's anything like the last 2 years specifically, his performance is going to suffer. And fun fact, last year was his peak year. All of his numbers were the best they have ever freaking been. Do you think he's going to do better than that this year with a contract hanging over his head? I'd say no, according to my imaginary 8 ball, right? Because that's the way I look at it. I mean, I'm going to look at that kind of like that anyways, because a lot of times they hit that peak and it kind of slows down a little bit. And this isn't the type of offense where somebody's getting fed. You mentioned something, Ted and Jess, Ty, all of you, I think have mentioned this a time or two. I don't think this is an offense where you can really have a number one receiver. I don't know how would Jerry Rice be in this offense? Do you think they'd try to force the ball into Jerry Rice? Do you think they'd run the offense through him? Like, this isn't the type of offense that like they do that with, because if that was the case, wouldn't they just run the damn offense through George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey every week? They don't, because they're doing game planning. They're doing strategy. They're doing all this other stuff, right? Like they are attacking these teams the way they feel they need to be attacked. They're kind of like the Celtics. The Celtics did this thing that Brad Stevens always talked about called positionless basketball. Like, your wing, your big, your guard, whatever that is, they could all guard the same guy on a switch and everybody's there. That's kind of what the 49ers are doing with their athletes. You know what I mean? Your wide receiver could play running back. Your running back could play wide receiver. Your tight end could play wide receiver. Your tight end might also take a handoff. He might also throw it to somebody. Also, one of your receivers might also throw it to somebody. And your running back could also throw it to someone. And your quarterback could run too. So, like, there's a million things that they can do out of multiple personnel, right? 12 and 21 and what have you, that a lot of teams don't have, that they have that flexibility for. So you need to be kind of on it. And if you're not on it from the beginning for that, like, you're just going to get left behind, and then you're going to kind of have that slag off year like you have because you just weren't on it in the OTAs. It's not very often somebody misses OTAs and comes out and has a better year the next year. It happens once in a while, but not often.
So, Matty B, are you saying that since the Celtics just won a ring, that now the Niners will win a ring too? Because they were both compared as being great regular season and having postseason futility.
I like that.
They're very both shit or get off the pot teams, right? And this is the time of year, like the Celtics specifically were like straight up. Like they had to win it this year. If they didn't win it this year, I don't know what the heck they would have done. Now they're looking at a situation where the NBA's Eastern Conference and the National Football Conference, all very similar. You've got some, you got some teams in the East that, could compete. You got some teams in the AFC that could compete and might be up there, right? Everybody's all over this Detroit thing, but success isn't linear all the time. Sometimes teams take a step back before they take a step forward. Different things change. Agendas change. People don't take your team quite as lightly during the regular season as they did the previous year, right? I think a lot of these teams, the Houstons, the Detroits, they're going to get a lot more primetime games. They're going to be Houston especially. Houston was running the gauntlet with 1 o'clock games last year. They're not going to be doing that this year. 49ers have already run through this gauntlet before. They've got 2 Thursday night games. Yeah, they got to go to the East Coast a bunch of times. Yeah, they got to do all this stuff. But they already know that, man. Like that's the gig. That's what you get when you're the defending NFC champion. Like that's how it works. You know what I mean? If you're the Intercontinental champion, the WWE is sending you all over the place all the time, right? Because you're on the card to make money. So that's what they're there to do. Like the 49ers are like that Intercontinental champion for the NFL. They're going to send them wherever to make money. That's why I've been surprised they haven't sent them overseas the last couple of years, specifically over to Europe or someplace like that. I feel like that would bring an absolute just massive amount of 49er fans out of the woodwork for that one. So that would be a trip, but they don't want to do that. So that's fine. It's fine. We'll go to places like Buffalo, exotic places. Tampa.
In December, no less.
Buffalo in December. Yeah, I can't wait for that one.
Should be a good one. All right.
I'll do a short flight.
Are you going to go to that?
Yeah, I've seen the Patriots play the Bills twice in that stadium, but I haven't seen the 49ers play the Bills in that stadium, so I have to go. It's on the checklist this year. Specifically this year, the games I have to go to, or I have to wait another 8 years, is Buffalo, Tampa, and Miami. I have to go to those 3. Those are on the big list, and I got to get those checked off.
What's up, David?
What's up, guys?
All right, so Ted, we were going to have Tarot Dome on with you, but he had to work. So I had some, but he did. Now he did. So I had some like topics for like the both of you. Yeah, work. I'm still going to ask you, and we'll debate them and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
First, I want to get your thoughts on the schedule. What are your general thoughts on our schedule this year?
Looks pretty tough, for sure. A lot of travel, which is, I think we're just kind of getting used to that every year, being top 5 in miles traveled. But the rest days to be dead last in rest days 2 years in a row, that's, you just got to be like, geez, they're doing that to us again. And, obviously you look at our practice facilities in Vegas for the Super Bowl, we're shoddy. It's just like, who did we piss off in the head office to, go ahead.
What about the $10,000 fine for the accidental overpayment? Yet you can tamper with a free agent, lose a 5th rounder. What the hell's all that about? I think we lost a 5th rounder or something.
Yeah,
like
it's wild.
There's always some sort of shit, and it's always against the 49ers, right? Like the 49ers fans, Saints fans, Patriots fans, there's quite a few like jilted franchises out there that I think feel probably screwed over from time to time on various things. But it seems like every time things turn around, it does not favor us. And any time that there is a loophole that is found by this franchise, it is magically closed by the Magical Competition Committee. Also, that happens to be a fun fact that Rich McKay is on the competition committee and, of course, works for the Falcons. So I'm sure there's nothing to see there, and it's not related in any way.
I mean, I think part of it is they're still upset with us for Eddie D spending so much money during the glory years, during the dynasty years, outspending everybody by a wide margin. I think there's a political part of it where Roger Goodell is pretty MAGA.
Look at the
and
shit
the Bay Area is pretty liberal.
Yeah.
And
look at the.
I think you're on mute.
You went mute. We can't hear you.
Did you mute yourself?
You can't hear us either. No, he probably can hear us. Say cheese.
David McNiner said whoever programmed the AI the NFL uses to make the schedule started with hate the 49ers.
I mean,
it's not AI. It's a guy
named
named Al.
One thing I do like about our schedule, I mean, I like that they've done this for several years where at the beginning of the season, they schedule all our home games at night and a lot of away games so that fans aren't cooking on the sunny side of Levi's Stadium. Mm-hmm. It is ridiculously hot over there. Matt's doing his best mime imitation. Mimes are creepy, Matty B. Don't do it.
They really are. That's why I have a beard. Like if I painted it on there, it'd be fine. Yeah, and you're 100%. That side of Levi, like you better bring your sunblock or like one of those big hats.
And a gallon of water. They pour 3/4 of it on you and drink a quart of it. So I do like that part though, where they've given us a lot of away games and night games in September. I think they've done us a favor there. But yeah, so many travel miles, and I get the West Coast teams typically travel the most. But why are we always the most? And then the rest days. That was a huge deal last year, and now here we go again with the rest days. So yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if some of our East Coast games were back to back, so we could stay out there like we have done in Ohio or in Greenbrier or various places where we can post up for a week. But I mean, obviously, yeah, there's a lot of tough teams on the schedule as well too. I think like Matty B said, we don't know that the Lions will be better, but I think it's the Niners or the class of the NFC still. And I think a tier below us, I think there are three teams. I think it's the Lions, the Packers, and probably the Eagles if their draft picks turn out the way people think. Those two corners, they got Cooper DeJean and the kid from Toledo, who some think was the best corner in the draft. If that all works,
Mitchell.
Yeah, if all those guys work out, I think the Eagles might be in that conversation. And then I think like Rams, Cowboys, and maybe Falcons are in the tier below that. Who am I missing? The Seahawks. I don't trust Geno Smith. So
Bears are going to be sneaky this year just because they've got a super
Bears could be in there. Bears could be in that top seven.
They loaded up on offensive talent, and they were playing well towards the end of last year, even with their offense looking completely clueless. Like towards the last the back half of last year, their offense looked like they had no idea what they were doing, and their defense was still killing it. You know what I mean? And they have that vibe, that 93 Patriots vibe where they were like 1-11 and then they won their last 4 games, and the next year they make it to the playoffs. You know what I mean? Sometimes teams really need to finish strong. But you saw with the Lions, year before last, going into last year, right? Like they didn't make the playoffs, but damn, they finished strong. They finished strong in front of the whole world because they knocked the Packers out of the playoffs on national TV, and then we're able to ride that. Some teams are able to catch that crest. They seem to me to be the team that could kind of do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm not a big Caleb Williams guy in general, at least not at number 1 overall type thing. But bottom line is, like, you look at USC and they had an abysmal defense. Yeah. And then you go, then their offense was great, but where was his first wide receiver draft and where were all the rest of them drafted, right? I think it was like 2nd or 3rd round and then like 7th round or something. Yeah. So not like there was a lot of stud wide receivers coming out of there. So I think that bodes in his favor, even though I don't particularly like him or think, it makes me question my own thoughts on him of maybe I'm wrong, right, about him.
Actually, I'm not a big fan of him just because he said Brock who.
Oh, there you go. Fighting words.
Yeah. But Ted, you mentioned the Packers.
Jordan Love is a solid quarterback.
Keeson Nixon apparently has a lot to say.
Oh, Keyshawn Nixon. He's the returner, right? The yapper. I'm sure. If there's one thing that guys that return kicks do, it's yap.
True. So he said that he's sick of hearing him referring to the 49ers. They got to come to Lambeau and see us, and Debo's annoying.
I mean,
He lives
getting trucked would
rent-free in
annoy
so many
me
players'
too.
heads.
Sorry.
What's that, Ted?
I said getting trucked would annoy me too, you know, but the fact that, you know, football's an emotional game, and the emotions that conjures up when he just plows through somebody, it's hard to put a value on, a PFF grade on. You know, it doesn't really translate statistically, but, you know, it just gets the whole team fired up. And it's why he's going to be hard to move off of if we do move off of him next June, like a lot of people think. So, you know, as far as going to Lambeau, you know, we went there and we beat him. Jimmy G not scoring a TD. So, you know,
a one-armed Jimmy G in the snow, mind you. Okay,
Brock Purdy ain't Jimmy G, folks. Yeah, exactly. And but you know, I don't know. Maybe they blame it on Aaron Rodgers. It's kind of hard. This whole thing of Rodgers and the Packers, you can't really separate them till now. But you know, obviously we own them in the playoffs 4-0 against Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. But in the regular season, they beat us the last couple times we played them in 2020, the COVID year, and in 2021, the game where Jimmy G scored too quickly at the end and gave Rodgers 36 seconds to get Crosby in range for that game-winning field goal. So that was when I jumped off the Jimmy G train, week 3 of 2021. So, but yeah, I think they're a really good team. I think they had, you know, good young receivers that are going to get better. I do think that losing Aaron Jones is going to hurt them. He really came on strong. He was injured most of last season, but then at the end came on really, really strong. And he was playing like he is one of the best catching and receiving running backs in the NFL, up there with Christian McCaffrey. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of that kind of talent. Just really explosive players. But, you know, they've done a lot on defense, and they drafted a line, and, you know, just look how they played us in the divisional round. And, I mean, I would dare to say that if the rain didn't let up, we might have lost that game. But, you know, the rain let up, and Brock Purdy led a game-winning drive. But I don't trust Brock Purdy in the rain, so I guess it'll depend on the weather at Lambeau. But it's in December also, isn't it? So I think it'll be probably snowing.
It's the end of November, I believe.
Oh, November.
Thanksgiving weekend, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah,
that could be rain.
It could be fine. Yeah,
rain would
never
concern
know.
me. But other than that, I would definitely bet on the 49ers as of now to win that game. Close. I mean, I think they're one of the best teams, like I said, in the NFC, along with the Lions and the Eagles and us.
So you talked about Aaron Jones. Have we done enough to solidify our run defense?
I mean, I think a lot of it was just Eric Armstead being out. So,
I agree.
You know, I mean, Javon Hargrave is not a great run stuffer, but we got Malik Collins, and we got the other Jordan Elliott, our, you know, podcaster,
Jordan Elliott,
reporter Jordan Elliott, right? The other Jordan Elliott, but he's a pretty solid run stuffer from the Browns. Have we done enough? I don't know. I mean, we didn't really draft D-line, did we? We didn't draft any edges, and we didn't draft any D tackles. So
it's surprising.
We got Leonard Floyd. He is really solid, and I think Malik Collins will be in there. I think Malik Collins will be on there on the base downs, and then I think you'll see Javon Hargrave more how we should have used him this year, which is just as a pass rush specialist.
Okay, you know, I was thinking about that same thing. Sorry. I was thinking about that same thing. And I was like, you know what? I could see Collins and what's the other guy's name? I'm trying to blank.
Givens?
The other guy we signed. Nope, not Gross.
Jordan Elliott.
Jordan Elliott. Thank you, Jesus. I forgot that quick. Collins and Jordan Elliott on base downs, and then we bring in Hargrave for the rush. Like he could be in part of that rotational type thing where even if he's just speaking of Hargrave, even if he's just off the field on first down, let's say we get a first down run stuff of 0 yards, then all of a sudden here comes Hargrave on the field for like the next 2 downs. Kind of that situation. I think that might serve us better in a way. So it's funny you mentioned that, Ted, because I was thinking about that too, like using him as the rotation piece.
Another big key for our run defense is going to be Dre Greenlaw. When is he ready? Is he ready at all this year? I mean, to be himself, he'll probably play some, but I think it'll be later in the year. And then it comes down to Devondre Campbell. How good is he? He's said repeatedly that in Green Bay he was misused. Is that true, or is he? It's hard to believe he's washed it. Was he only 28, 29? I mean, he's definitely not 30 yet. So I want to believe him that it was just the Green Bay Packers misusing him. He really played well in that game I was mentioning, that 2021 game where they beat us at Levi's. So yeah, I hope Devondre Campbell can come up big, assuming that Dre Greenlaw can't really be himself early in the season, which I think is a fair assumption since he did it in February, his Achilles.
Yeah.
And he says he wants to see Tig Brown, Malik Mustafa, and Talanoa Hufanga out there at the same time.
Me too, but Huff's another one of those guys that may be later in the year. He might start on PUP. Supposedly it's going well, but I guess we'll see in camp. I'll be there at least. I think it looks like I can be there the first 4 practices of training camp, and maybe the last 2. But I think we're going to be in Vegas the 1st to the 4th, maybe. So we'll see.
Do you know the exact dates yet of training camp?
Yeah, absolutely. Raj posted them, RSF 49ers. It was the 26th is the first open camp date. And then the 27th, the 30th, the 31st, the 1st, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and the 7th. It's a pretty good spread.
Okay. Cool.
And oddly, only like 2 weekend days the whole time. There's only a Sunday and a Saturday. So for working people, that's pretty brutal. I think last year there was like 4 weekend days, or at least 3. Out of the 9 open that I went to.
Got to use that PTO.
That's right.
Exactly. Develop that summertime cough. Got that summer cold.
I'm feeling better. Hey, I'm back.
Allergies.
Yeah, I was wrong. Yeah, just
all right.
allergies.
So in keeping with the Packers, let's do a little Brock Purdy versus Jordan Love, Ted.
Okay.
Go
So
ahead.
you mean like who would I take over?
Yeah,
Purdy or
give
Jordan
us your
Love?
thought. Give your thoughts on both.
Oh man, don't make me do it.
Getting right to the point here.
I mean, it's hard to imagine Jordan Love with our weapons. That's, I think, the best way to put that. Because, think about who he had. He had Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and, a lot of really good young receivers, but they are not George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey. I mean, even Aaron Jones at his peak is a step below Christian McCaffrey. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I would take Jordan Love over Brock Purdy. I would take CJ Stroud over Brock Purdy. Not by much. I think Brock Purdy is amazing. He showed so much improvement this year, and the hard part is, at least Jordan Love's been around a lot longer in the NFL. Maybe not playing that much longer, but he's been around. He sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. Yep. So that's hard to weigh out. But and the other hard part with Brock Purdy is this will be his first offseason as a starter without rehab, so his first, full OTAs camp, and he was not good in camp last year. He was throwing interceptions. He was throwing pick sixes. He was every deep ball, literally except for maybe one, was long or short. And then he got better in preseason, better early season, and even better during the season. And God bless him. I mean, he did the two things by the end against the Lions. He was doing the two things that I thought only Trey Lance could do for this team, which was he was forcing two high safeties because of the ability to throw deep. So one of the extra defender was out of the box, and then one of the defenders left in the box was forced to spy him because he was running all over him. And so it was kind of like 10 on 9 at that point, instead of 10 on 11 with maybe someone like Jimmy G, where he can't throw deep and has no threat to run. So, I reserve the right to change my opinion, but as of right now, I would take CJ Stroud or Jordan Love. And I think the NFL is in great hands with all three of these quarterbacks. I think they're all going to be phenomenal, but just what CJ Stroud did as a rookie, to make the playoffs, to win a playoff game with a rookie coach, a rookie QB. Jordan Love played really well against us for a while, and then, kind of fell apart at the end. But when we started getting some pressure on him, but it would be, all things equal, salary wise and experience wise, I would take either of those two over Brock Purdy.
Hi, your thoughts?
I'd take Brock. He's just, I talk about it all the time on this show. His ascension has been great. And Ted, you mentioned how his kind of timeline was off last season because of the surgery. So he didn't have the OTAs and everything. So his timeline was eventually shifted as far as his off-season schedule. But we saw how he got better and better, like better from when training camp started to the end, from week 1 to week 3 to week 5, et cetera, et cetera. He did have that little blip in the middle with those 3 games. I know everybody wants to point the finger at Steve Wilkes, but Brock had a blip there. But we saw how he rebounded and how he finished strong to end the season. This kid is just ascending before our eyes and getting better and better. And this is the first season where he's been sitting down with Kyle this whole offseason and going over film and going over plays and processing things. And we've seen how he's built his body up some to handle the rigors of a full season now. I think he's just going to continue to improve. So, yeah, to see him develop from what he's done from when he first came till now, that quick extension, I think is just going to continue. He's going to continue to rise and get better and, be amongst those MVP candidates.
Maddie?
I think part of the reason he hit that little dip last year is because he had this thing called a concussion in the Minnesota game.
Nope. Doing that. Nope. He does not reflect my thinking. I'm not doing that. No. Nope.
I think it affected him in the Vikings game, and I was at the Bengals game. He didn't.
Here we go with the Bengals game now. Here we go.
Not himself.
That's all I have.
6 days later, who clears concussion protocol in 6 days?
He cleared it in a day.
Nobody had. Here's what I'm going to say. Nobody had done it at that point that last season until that day. So I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned. That was not a Sam Darnold day. So whatever happened, like he hit the semi rookie wall. He just hit a wall with his head, or he just hit the wall of the Vikings and Brian Flores, because Brian Flores is pretty aggressive defensively.
Pretty darn good. Yeah.
He's very good. Very good. Very good. He's more than good. And Cincinnati's just, Joe Burrow's one of those guys. So, I can totally understand that. And then, he gets the break the next week and then comes back out basically second half outside of the Baltimore games was gangbusters. So, my
David says,
yeah.
LOL,
The opinions expressed.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Ted, besides the offensive line, what's your biggest concern?
Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga. And losing Eric Armstead. I mean, I think we've got Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott look fine, but I think they're just look good because they don't miss time, so their statistics kind of even out over a year. But in the time when Eric Armstead plays, he is captain of the team, and he has an impact on the team greater than his statistics showed. I feel being a run stuffer is hard to a two-yapper. A guy gets double teamed a lot in the run game and as a by pass blockers. That's big impact.
For those of you just joining us, we're just talking about our biggest concerns for the 49ers. Maddie, you're up.
Secondary, like I said, I just feel like there's a lockdown corner out there needed, or something. You know what I mean? Whether or maybe they
You don't like Ward and Lenore?
I didn't.
I think he means Ambry Thomas.
Right. I do not mean Ambry Thomas. No, I don't mean Ambry Thomas. I honestly think Green might end up being the guy that injects whatever into that secondary.
He could be.
They've also got some, so I'm hoping that's the case. Also, Yidam played really well last year for New Orleans, but
and
he hadn't played, and he hadn't played super well before that. So what got unlocked last year, right? Is there a Balco in New Orleans? Like, what the hell's going on? So, or did it finally get unlocked last year? Was he used right? Or was he the anti-Campbell, where our team used him right, and the 49ers are like, wow, we could use him like that, and then sign him for a deal. That's kind of the thing that they did with Mooney Ward when they got him from Kansas City. So, and it worked. You know what I mean? So, but I don't know. I think back to the 94 team, and I don't know if the 94 team wins the Super Bowl without getting Dion in week 3, right?
They don't.
So sometimes you just need to hit that home run, and this is a team that I think could hit that home run. So if somebody hits the market that might become available, or somebody becomes available that you didn't think would become available, I think that, that might be something they look at. I could certainly see them looking. I think they're always going to be looking for depth on the other side of the defensive end side, specifically if Leonard Floyd doesn't pan out, but he's going to, so we don't have to worry about that at all. I don't think they're ever going to trade for the offensive line stuff unless they're absolutely going to, unless that thing I read the other day with Chris Forster about how they're so like, nope, we're going to develop guys. We're going to develop guys. And at the end of the day, you can develop guys in the round. You get your Tristan Wirfs, and you get other guys that you can get in those rounds. So hopefully they can find those guys and keep developing guys. And your Mike McGlinchey, Laken Tomlinson guys that are going to get their contracts, they're just going to get them somewhere else, right? So that would be there. What I really want to see is this team get somebody to actually, eventually help George Kittle and really develop underneath them. I don't think any of the current tight ends we have are develop worthy, which is why I think Logan Thomas got signed, right? Because I feel like if they had liked what they saw from the young guys, they wouldn't have needed to use any cap space on a Logan Thomas. So that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see them hit on another tight end, because literally Kittle's been the only one they've gotten right since they've been here. So, I mean, he's been awesome, but you need others at some point. So, I'd like to see that.
So you're not a P-line truther, Matty B?
I'm not really an anybody truther. I just kind of look and go to as many games as I can from where I sit in the world, and watch as many games as I can, and watch them over and over again. And when I go back and watch them, it's like, who popped and who didn't pop, and who's being used and who's not being used. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter who the hell, like who I think should be used or shouldn't be used, because the coaching staff probably sees things in practice that I absolutely do not see, or see things in meeting rooms that I absolutely do not see. So I just have to go with what they're putting on the field and why they're doing it. But you kind of look at it year to year, like, they kind of spread everything out and kind of go from there, and stuff happens. So everybody gets their stuff, and sometimes some years it favors somebody else, and sometimes some years it favors somebody else. But like a couple years ago when they didn't have a good running back, they ran most of the offense through Debo. I feel like the point person, the person that has made this offense run the last few years has been different almost every year. And I feel like this is kind of one of the first years in a long time where, like, you're not really looking to run the offense through somebody new this year, right? Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey are still kind of the guys. So they're rolling over into this year, and now they can kind of add on to that. And Brock just having that healthy offseason, not having to worry about a contract, right? That contract's going to get taken care of after the regular season. So we'll see.
And he's an Eric Saubert guy.
Yeah. Great.
Campus Bodius. Maximus.
I kind of wish I honestly wish they'd gotten Kyle Pitts. I thought Kyle Pitts should have been the guy that they went for instead of the thing that they did with Trey Lance, but there was no way they were going to trade 3 first-round picks for a tight end.
What about Mason Pline? Undrafted?
That's what I was saying. I was saying Maddie's not a Pline truther.
I mean, could he? Sure, but like everybody thinks that next to Antonio Gates is on their roster. You know what I mean? Like they really do. They think that guy is right there. So, well, no, Pitts doesn't know what an end zone looks like. Look at who he had playing quarterbacks for him for the last 2 years, dude. You wouldn't know what an end zone's like either playing in that offense.
Pline has big hands.
Cordero Patterson had to get his carries.
Though, we always get these half tight ends.
He's more of a big receiver than
block and can't catch.
Yeah, he's more of a Mike Gesicki-ish type, I think.
Yeah.
Ty, what are your thoughts
on what part?
Your biggest concern?
Injuries. 49ers stay healthy all year. We're 20-0. You can mark me down as saying that right now. Don't even ask me later on. We're 20-0. It's only injuries. I think the coaches do a great job of putting guys in position to do well. We saw a young Jair Brown get on the field, just thrown in there in the deep end and played well. It's what we do. They signed John Feliciano out of nowhere. He wound up being the best guy for right guard. Like the coaches get these guys in position to play well. We just need them to stay healthy. Like for some dumb reason, the bad luck ran out of safeties last year. No one talks about that. And we had to sign a guy who was on a boat. Hey, you come in and play. We need you. Like it's a war of attrition in the Super Bowl when we lost two guys one on offense, one on defense. It hurt us. And as Matt talked about earlier, we come to find out we had key guys that were just banged the hell up. And even with that, we were still in the hunt, still, moments away from winning it all. So it's really just health for me. It's just a battle of attrition. I think the coaches do a great job of getting these guys ready. The veterans do a great job of leading the younger guys and getting them, in a position to succeed, teaching them the 49er way. Yeah, I'm just concerned with health. We saw in 2022 how we lost a quarterback, still in the hunt. We lost another quarterback, still in the hunt. We lost another quarterback and was still in the hunt until we literally had no quarterback. And then it was like, well, it was fun while it lasted. So it's just health for me.
Yeah, I agree with Sin here.
Yes, and
the loss of Dre Greenlaw during the Super Bowl really hurt, and if we had him in the second half, we would have won.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last one for me. 10. Strongest room.
Ooh, man, that's a tough one.
like the can I just get a thing so everybody makes the right decision here? Physically strongest or like the deepest and like the most competitive?
Like deepest and most competitive.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because physically strong, we all know the kicking room is, no one's competing with them. So
100%.
Yeah, I'm glad you fixed that.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
Go ahead, Ted. Yeah.
I go wide receiver room with Debo and Ayuk and Juwan Jennings. That's really one of the best wide receiver rooms in the NFL.
Yeah, that was going to be my pick as well, because you got the big three there, as Ted just mentioned. Then you had a young Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, Bell played well when his number was called last year. I mean, he did some things. We saw, we heard how Debo said, hey, we took him under our wing. He's learning the ropes, but we're going to make sure he's all right. I think year 2, he could be even a little better for us. Just don't have him return kicks, and Chris Connolly came out of nowhere and he played well for us as well. Like in his little spots that his number was called. So that's a very strong room right there.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with the one person room, which is what we have right now in George Kittle, the tight end room.
He's the trump card. He just, is above everyone else.
Yeah, that's who I'm going with. Maddie, who are you going with?
Quarterback room. You've got an unquestioned starter at 1. You've got an unquestioned backup at 2. You can say whatever you want about Allen and Dobbs. At the end of the day, Dobbs is probably he's like he's the guy that you want starting if something happens to Brock. Okay. But Allen is a really good number 3. So if anything, hits the fan, and if there's anything that the San Francisco 49ers have a history of, it's quarterback injuries and shit hitting the fan. I can count a whole bunch of years. 1991 comes off the top of my head. 1986. These are all times that the third string 2022. These are all times the third string quarterbacks is getting meaningful reps in games, starting games, finishing games, finishing important games, because not just because it was mop up time, but because things were happening. I feel very confident in that quarterback room. I feel like that's an offense that could be picked up pretty easily. Or by a guy like Dobbs, as opposed to like somebody that's just going to roll in off the street. You know what I mean? So him getting an entire offseason to kind of digest that after the stuff that he was able to do after last week, things of that nature. Yeah, I think I'll take that quarterback room. And Josh, it's also, it's not one of those deals where like, it's not one of those deals where it's like, oh, if you got 2 guys that could be number 1, then you don't have anybody, like the Raiders. You have a number 1, you have a number 2, and you have a clear number 3, which there's a whole bunch of teams out there that barely have a clear number 1. So yeah, I'll take the quarterback room.
Josh Dobbs is an astrophysicist. Like I don't foresee him learning the playbook to be a problem. It's just running it the way Kyle wants it run. That's the only issue. But him knowing the playbook, what we running? Z48, Counter-Strike, XY. Okay, got it. Let's go. And just him executing it the way Kyle wants it. That's the only issue.
Yeah, he's a pretty smart dude. All right. So shout out to the chat. Thank you guys so much. Ted, thank you as always for coming on. Let's go to that hurry up offense in the 2-minute warning.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always great.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So Tight End University wrapped up today. And on a good note, George Kittle is healthy and back. He was out there catching and running routes. I'm sure, obviously conditioning in the next, 30 or so days will take into effect, but it's good to see. Again, rookies report July 16th, vets report July 23rd. And as always, go Niners, and we'll see you next week. Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah. It's the 40 days of hell, man. And it's just getting started. So look forward to training camp. That's what I got to say. Enjoy a little bit of peace and be optimistic about this season because it's going to be another great one. So don't get too much in your head about it. Go Niners.
Okay.
Brandon Ayuk will sign with the 49ers. And it'll be a reasonable amount. Like I said, I think 27 or 28 mil at the most. And but I do think it's going to take a while. Hopefully in July, but if I was betting, I'd say August.
Ready?
Niners NE on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you call it. You can also do Instagram as well. Still got tickets for sale. Had some people reach out to me last week checking on some things. So yeah, get your tickets now before things get crazy, because people will tell you to wait and let it settle down towards the end of the year. But like, if a team gets good, it's unexpectedly good, that price will only rise. Those big games, those destination games like Green Bay, it was like Vegas and the Raiders a couple years ago. That price of that only went up all year long, even with the Raiders being absolute hot garbage. So get your tickets now, kids. Get your tickets now. And for God's sakes, get them through me.
Maddie, are you on the East Coast or are you in Hawaii? As it says 403 behind you there.
I was staring at that this whole time. I'm like, I'm so
that clock is like on a battery, and there's some sort of like weird way to reset it. And I got to tell you, I just don't have it in me. I don't have like, and it's so strange. Like, it's plugged in. There's no battery to it. So like when the power goes out, like I don't know. I don't want to deal with it. I just haven't changed it.
So you are on the East Coast then. Okay.
I'm glad someone. I'm truly glad someone noticed. Yeah, I'm in Maine actually.
Oh, cool! Beautiful state.
He actually has really good seats. So hit him up for his seats for the Niners
that are not in the sun. Yeah,
love it.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, huge good stuff. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Ted, thank you again. Shout out to the chat. You guys are, as always, awesome. And go Niners. We'll see you next week.
Peace and go Niners.
And, of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
We'll see a pickup sometime on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone.